Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
What's up everybody, and welcome to my Final Fantasy XVI full review. Now, this game is not without its flaws, but I will definitely say that the positives innumerably outnumber the negatives in this case. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, my game of the year thus far. It's going to be pretty hard to beat in terms of quality. It's Square Enix, so obviously they're going to bring their A game when it comes to graphical fidelity. I'm also going to be showing screenshots from my gameplay, from my footage, but I'm not going to be showing actual gameplay because I don't want to get copyright claimed. So beyond the graphical fidelity, how does this game play? Well, here the game shines. I was a little bit, I guess, concerned going in because it steps really far away from the traditional Final Fantasy, RPG mechanics of attacking and waiting for your opponent to attack and turns and whatnot, turn-based style obviously, and it even goes further away from 12 where we had the circle and you're still waiting for your gauge to fill in order to use certain attacks. This is straight up action. Obviously it is developed in part by Platinum Games, the Devil May Cry makers, stuff like that, so we got a lot of that awesome action here. And things are done in such a different way here, and I was really worried about it, but it's really refreshing to have this different take. So just off the bat, with the combat, how does it work? You have different, I almost said Aeons, or Guardian Forces. They're called icons in this game, and how they work is different from how they usually work. So usually when you summon a Guardian Force, that's exactly what you do. You summon the Guardian Force, and that Guardian Force does their super attack, or they stay on stage and do a couple attacks for a predetermined amount of time until like a meter runs dry or something. But in this game, they kind of work almost like a limit break, I want to say. So you have your limit break gauge at the top, and obviously all these things can be expanded over time with the RPG mechanics that are inside of the game itself. You have different wheels at which you can purchase anything at any point in time and use it in your combat, but obviously some things cost more than others, and in the early gameplay you're not getting as much of those points as you would need, let's say 2,000 to get like their ultimate attack for one of the icons. So you map two attacks for your actual icon, and that is square and triangle, and those are two special moves or whatever. And like I said, they do have an unlockable ultimate attack which you can also equip, which takes a little bit longer to respawn, but there are items that actually reduce those times. And the items is actually what I want to talk about next, but the combat is very, very fast and very flowing. You don't actually switch between party members in this game, you are just Clive, and you have party members that are helping you out at times. Most of the time it's Jill. You also have, which is the lead female protagonist in this game, you also have Sid sometimes. You have your dog at almost all the time, and it leads for some really interesting gameplay. Like sometimes we're surrounded by enemies and I'm concentrated on one foe because sometimes they can be bullet sponges. You are pretty much given the tools to be able to take down these situations. However, difficulty aside, I didn't think it was the most difficult. There are boss enemies that are like incredibly hard to get down, but like if you are KO'd, you do get the opportunity to revive with some of the items that you have attributed to you ready to go. The combat, as fast as it can be, you're using your regular attacks, and there's also lunges and different kinds of combinations that you can string together between magic and melee, and you also have your supers for your icons. And then when you reach your actual meter, you can press R3 and L3 together, the triggers, and you transform into an icon state. It's kind of like Super Saiyan, if you will, and like you go ham until the bar is depleted, opening up to new combo strings, and you can still combo them with your original super moves. And that goes for any of the icons. You're not just restricted to one icon. So if you have 3 icons and you go into that state and you rush in and you're attacking and you use the specials on that, you can switch the page with L2 to go to the next icon and use their special moves, and it can work in unison. So obviously with different types being affected in different ways, you want to switch this up constantly. But the combat is, in my eyes, very good, and it's very tight, and I actually really enjoyed it a lot. There's a lunge that helps you close the gap between enemies that like makes the gameplay stay fast-paced, so I really enjoy that aspect of it. I do love games like Devil May Cry, so like it was a little bit easier for me to come into this, but if you're just familiar with RPGs and not as familiar with action games, this is a good solid stepping point because it's not as deep as some of those titles are, but it's also not as simplified as something like Final Fantasy XII was, for example. Now, getting into the characters, there's actually like a lot of really interesting and unique characters. It is Final Fantasy after all, and they're all beautifully illustrated as per they usually are. But when it comes to the actual characters themselves, there is a deepness to them that I haven't seen before, and I guess that leads to the darker tone of this story, because this is a mature rated game. I don't want to say that Clive is as emo as like Squall or Cloud, or as happy-go-lucky as like Zack. Like, he's kind of a combination of a bunch of different characteristics. He has to take a lot of crap at some points because, like, in this world, the branded are pretty much seen as lesser than human. They're an allegory for any kind of discriminated class, which is what they are in this world. He behaves in a manner of which that I wouldn't when treated like this. Like, there were so many times where I'm coming across, like, characters who are supposedly good guys or supposedly on your side, and like I just want to eviscerate them because of the way they talk down and treat you. And then there's the small ones where you're meeting key characters who really are on your side and trying to like help out. There's a really in-depth story here that's actually told very, very well, and the story is amazing. Okay, so there's a lot to be had here. There's less item usage than there used to be. Like, you have item quick slots that you can summon to, and you pretty much have your standard like elixirs, high potions, accessories that you can equip that'll auto use them. I actually take those accessories off. I use stat boost accessories, so perhaps a defense up 30% or something like that. They are layered by different kind of levels as well, so there'll be like, you know, your rarer, your legendaries, and all kinds of stuff indicated by color, as per usual when it comes to a game like this. You do get swords, different weapons in the game, but it's different than usual. Usually when you go to the blacksmith, there's the ability to upgrade your swords. It seems in between major chapters. You get like a new sword, and you actually can craft these in New Game Plus to become even stronger. A lot of them are just set at the levels that they are, and you need to rely on accessories to boost their power and your other outfitted gear. He doesn't actually change clothes in this, like jobs or anything like that. You play as him in 3 different time periods of his life, and those are the outfits that you're using in those time periods. So there's no adjustment on that. It's clearly a indicator of stats, not a physical thing. It doesn't manifest in any way in the overworld. The world is not open. It is not even semi-open. It's for the most part open areas, and the areas are very, very big. There's a lot of fun things that go on in these areas, such as like people that are doing something they shouldn't, or bandits, or people that need help with side quests. And the side quests in this game actually give you really good rewards, whether it's experience or accessories or just like really good things. It's like, I felt at first I was skipping them, and then when I started doing them, I was like, man, I'm getting a ton of rewards for this, especially when you go to your hideout and you're actually talking to the person in charge of the side quests, and she literally gives you free stuff based on how much you've already done. So that's like super in-depth, and I really enjoy that aspect of the game. So now I'm actually taking time to do side quests when I get done a major mission, because sometimes they can be, whew, they're a crazy spectacle of action and bliss. Like, there's a lot that goes on in those things. The icon battles are like, it's like Power Rangers, like Megazord versus Goldar kind of stuff, with like crazy spectacle of colors and lights, and there's just a lot going on, but it's not uneasy to follow. The enemies all have patterns, and it's really easy to learn how to use those patterns to your advantage. For blocking, for example, we actually have a dodge mechanic, so you can actually evade, and you can actually parry too. So like evading characters is like easy. If you're gonna like press R1 when they're about to hit you, you can do a regular evade, you can do a perfect evade. I actually have an accessory that's equipped, a legendary one called the Berserker, in which you can actually go crazy if like you do a perfect evade and do like you're pretty much imbued with the powers of your icon at that time without having to use the icon abilities or the meter. So I love that one. It's what I'm using right now. I don't know if I'm going to change it up if I find something better, but that's what I'm using for right now. There's a wide array of play styles that you can actually adapt through the accessories and even the weapons and things, which is a given for a role-playing game. But beyond that, beyond the story, beyond the characters, what are some negatives that I would say about this game? The negatives I would say about this game is that sometimes in the open areas, there's not much going on. Like, you have your hunts, you have your patches of like enemies. Sometimes enemies will pop out of unexpected places. There's chests to find, but in my experience, the items that are on the ground are usually something just like a potion or like 2 to 5 gil or something like that. It's like not much to really go out of your way from, and sometimes those items are like guarded by pretty tough enemies that have a stagger bar. The stagger bar, what I should mention really quick, is what it sounds, it's a stagger meter. So you actually have a mini meter underneath of your health, and this doesn't mean you have to deplete this first to deplete the health. Their health is being chipped away while you're attacking as the stagger is. Theirs open up to full attack when the stagger meter is depleted, because they'll be helpless until that stagger bar refills itself. And at 50%, you can actually use Garuda's, one of her techniques, because they're all mapped like a main technique, which is like holding R2 and then circle, where she will grab the enemy and pull it to the ground to actually momentarily disable it before the stagger bar is done, in which case you can actually get much more of the stagger bar down. So there are tougher enemies in the overworld that have stagger bars. All the hunts are like that as well. The hunts act as like mini bosses in this game, but they hold materials that you actually need to do the hunts for, because those upgrade materials are used to craft the better gear and the better weapons in the game. So you actually do need to do the hunts. It's like it's a requirement pretty much if you want to progress past like New Game Plus and get into the actual meat and potatoes of the game, because I believe the game doesn't really open up until New Game Plus. So besides empty, there are chests in towns and stuff. Like, there's chests around the overworld, there's chests in these areas, and sometimes they have good stuff, other times it's like something you would sell for like money. But the money that you get from them that I've seen thus far isn't really that great. You have like goblin coins and like dark blood and stuff like that, and you can sell that at the shops, but it's usually like 300 to 800 gil or something like that. But sometimes just buying like a song for the hideout is like 20,000 gil or something like that. So it's not really much in the grand scheme of things, unless you're really grinding it out there in the overworld. Past the loading, the enemies don't come back, so you have to like leave the area and come back in so that you can actually fight them again. There's stuff like that, but the world is gorgeous, I will say. Like, they definitely took their time with this world. The amount of screenshots I've taken that you'll probably see during this video, just in the overworld alone, or just of the scenery, is like amazing. And these are just like still images that I took on the PlayStation 5, not even using a capture card. They're just like screenshots, and I was really happy with like how this. Sometimes I'll just stop and look around, and sometimes I'll just stop and admire the scenery. The only other negatives that I will say is I do miss having a party that I can switch between. This is Clive's story, but I do wish that you can actually play as Jill sometimes, or play as Sid, or even give more advanced commands to the dog besides like attack or heal. There's a lot of things like that are missing, I think, from other Final Fantasy games, but I can tell they put the development time itself into the battle system instead of having all that extra stuff for the turn-based system. So while I would do like those kind of things, it feels like I'm really nitpicking, and I don't want to give this game an unfair shake, because I absolutely love and recommend this game. The only other things that I can really think about is there's a lot of telegraphing that goes on. So if you know you're about to come to a boss, the items that you'll be picking up will literally just be high potions and potions, so you're not going to be picking up like the little amounts of gil and stuff like that. And that's when it's kind of preparing you, letting you know like, hey, there's a boss coming up, so you should be ready. Because there are sub-bosses and even enemies that are mixed in with regular enemies that have those stagger meters that can take a little bit longer to take down, especially in your first playthrough when you're not like super leveled up or whatever. But I don't see it as a problem. I love the difficulty in the game. I do hope that we get DLC for the game, but as far as right now, like, I'm still enjoying the game. I'm still playing it every day. I'm having an immense amount of fun with it. I forgot that Street Fighter 6 exists at this point. I'm literally only playing Final Fantasy 16. So I don't know if that tells you what it is. If I was going to give this a numerical score, listen, I'd love to give this game a perfect 10 out of 10. I said on Discord that like this might be the first time I give this game a 10 out of 10, but that was in the honeymoon phases of the first couple hours of the game. With the little bit of problems that I've noticed, I will probably bring this down to a 9.5 out of 10. I think it is a solid 9.5. You're going to have issues if you've played all of Final Fantasy games, but that new gameplay and the way that the game actually functions, if you're into it, you're into it. Like, it's definitely my game of the year, as I said, and I don't want to drag this on for too much longer. If you want my recommendation, go out and get Final Fantasy XVI right now. And it's sold like over 3 million copies in the first like 6 days, and that's after being banned in like the Middle East and China. So it's selling pretty well. And if you want to talk to your friends about this game, then I definitely suggest jumping on it, because this is definitely Final Fantasy. You can tell in the music, you can tell in the art style, you can tell in the overworld, you can tell in the characters like the Moogles and the Chocobo and things of that nature. But all in all, like, this feels like a departure from what's standard in the series, and it's not in a bad way. I really was worried, because I've played all the Final Fantasies. I own all the Final Fantasies, and I will say the only thing that I would say that I'm missing from this is some kind of third option game, like some kind of side game like they had in like Final Fantasy VIII with, like, you know, the card battle, or something like in 7 where you're doing like the chocobo racing or the bets or something like that. I would like something like that. But I can see why this story with the darker tone is just made for you to be there. Maybe there is something like that later on in the game, I just haven't come across it yet. So now it's time for me to turn the conversation over to you, and let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Have you played Final Fantasy XVI yet? Are you excited about Final Fantasy XVI? Are you going to get it eventually? And there will be a poll at the end of this video that I will go over on the next video that discusses that. And any thoughts are always welcome, guys. And you can also join the Discord. Link is in the description box down below, where you can come over and talk to us about a myriad of things over there. And thank you for watching this, the 20 of you that did, because this is a fighting game channel and I don't usually cover games like this, but I just had to because I love it so much. So that should tell you something. As I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.